Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. Today, Stacie Mallen is back, and we're talking about mental health in the workplace. So, Stacie, thanks for being here.
Thank you for being willing to talk about this. I think I saw a statistic the other day that 81% of employees are saying that they are still experiencing some level of mental health challenge a year into COVID. And that comes in lots of forms, right? Anxiety, stress, feeling overwhelmed. And that's one that we hear a lot. And so my question to kind of the world right now is, how are organizations showing up for people? How are they figuring out how to best help employees? And maybe most importantly, and we talked about this about wellness last week, how are you preparing your leaders to show up for people? Because I think that's a big challenge for people. It feels they're overwhelmed and other people are still overwhelmed. And I think I know here in Arizona, vaccines, are more readily available than ever. And so now there's confusion. It's a different type of stress. Are you feeling that where you are and you're hearing that from other people?
Absolutely. I think it's, pretty consistent across the board for a lot of organizations. So, yeah, I think we recognize it, we see it, we know it's kind of happening and it's impacting our people. But the big question is, well, now what do we do?
Yeah. And another statistic, 56% of leaders are saying that they expect employees to reach out for help. So I guess the first thing I would say to employers, and this is something we need to work on at where I am, is how do we prepare leaders to give people resources? So I think it starts on that front line of, are you educating your leadership on just listening, number one, and sometimes that's the best thing that we can ever do for people. But do you give your leaders some sort of toolkit or ideas on where to send people as they have those questions? The other thing that's coming up a lot, and this is personal for me, I have a lot of teenagers in my house, but there's a lot of statistics coming out, and Kathleen Gramercy, who you know and love as well, and I talked about this the other day, kind of this second wave of COVID. And the age group that's being hit the hardest actually is teenagers, but also preteens and early teenagers. I know in my household, what I found, Lindsay, was my kiddos that could drive, that work, that have independence, they have soldiered through this a little bit better, right? They have independence, they can connect. But my kids that are younger, and so they have the emotional drive to be connected, and they're teenagers or about to be teenagers, but they don't have that ability to be independent. We're finding like they're not leaving their rooms. A year later, they are not leaving their rooms. So I think thinking about resources or helping people connect to things that are meaningful, because as employees show up for work and all they can think about is their kiddo at home, and maybe their kiddo is in the bedroom right next to where they're working, but you're working. So you're working, you can't even show up for them because you're working. Now, the blessing, I think, and this is something that's been relevant for us, is that you are here. And so I think you can see it. So I think that is the gift, right? If we're still working remotely, we can see it. So the question is, what can you do? And I think some of the things that we've tried to do is just get them out, take them on walk, like to ask them to go on walks with you, ask them to get out of the house, get a little vitamin D. Some of the things we talked about in last week's wellness, things that they can employ as well. But the big call to action, I think, today is, are you prepared? Are you helping your leaders prepare for these conversations?
And if the answer is no, but we want to, are there any immediate resources that you would recommend for them?
Yeah, there's a lot of organizations. I mean, I think if you Googled it right now, I don't want to endorse anybody specifically, but Lyra Health is one that comes to mind. They are really diving into mental health in the workplace and how to be more supportive and how to to help folks. There's a local organization by the name of Life Guides, which pairs employees to independent guides that have maybe navigated this space. If people are facing specific challenges, life challenges, right? Because as the sandwich, this Gen X, we have our older aging parents and our younger kids. We're helping them all navigate. But I also think going back to your carriers, going back to your broker, and soliciting and asking. So our broker is MJ Insurance. We love them. They're very innovative. And that's who we're plugged into right now, asking for what we can do right now for our employees. Those guys are the experts. So I would plug in and ask, because I know they're probably getting a lot of those requests.
All right. Well, Stacie, thanks again for joining us for this conversation on the importance of mental health and what organizations can do to help their team members. So thanks, Stacie.
Thank you. Thank you.